All right, Jared, I'm going to hit you with 3 names or predictions that have come in either from my own head or the heads of listeners or watchers of Locked On Ducks out there, and we shall get your thoughts. I have not told him these ahead of time because that's the most fun way to do podcasting.
Always.
Get the live reaction here. Let's start with this one on the defensive side of the ball. Teitum Tuioti accounts for 10 or more combined sacks and TFLs, and I am separating those two stats in a way that the NCAA does not, for reasons that I cannot and will never understand. So, for example, 4.5 sacks and 5.5 TFLs would amount to 10 total. That would be written differently in the stat books, but I think you get what I'm going for here. How likely or possible do you think that is?
Well, I think it's just going to depend on how much the guy plays, and I'm not saying that he will not be a factor in this defense. I certainly think he will. He got 2 sacks last season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he would need to at least double that production and then add in a bunch of tackles for loss. But I can see it happening. I'm not sure if it's likely or unlikely. I think it's a good line. Like if, guessing the odds type of deals, like do you go over under on that number? I think it's a good one because I think with the loss of Mace Funa to graduation this year, Oregon needs somebody on that outside, that Jack linebacker position, the Sam linebacker position to go and be able to work in the run game. And for as good as Mateo Uyunglele is, or at least I think he can be, I'm not sure that he's the run guy out there. And I think that Teitum Tuioti could step into that role. And I feel the same about Mateo as I do with Blake Purchase, a guy who I think is better suited to rush the passer. So I think Tuioti is going to be that run guy, which will give him opportunities to make tackles for loss. And I know you want an answer here. So I'm going to give Oregon fans some hope and say that I think it's likely that he goes over 10. But it's going to take a big season from him to do so. But I think that he really opened a lot of people's eyes last year, especially from my perspective, where he comes in as a 4-star recruit. He's a coach's kid. Like how good is he? Like, is he going to do anything here? Or is he just here because his dad's a coach? It's like, no. He's really good. He's really, really, really good. And he's going to go and play from day one if he wasn't hurt, like in the first week of the season. So I think he could be a starting Sam Jack linebacker, just depending on the matchup too. So I think he'll get plenty of reps to do so. And I'll say that he does it.
I remember watching him run down the field covering T-Ferg in the spring game and just trying to make sure that my eyes weren't deceiving me. Like that's defensive end, and he is running down the field stride for stride in good coverage with Oregon's NFL-capable tight end. I went towards the under with this, Jared, not because he isn't capable, but because I think that edge spot is so stacked because you've got Mateo in Purchase. Don't ever forget about Amarion Winston. He is just a very good, solid football player in there. We'll see if Elijah Rushing contributes as a true freshman. I think your first point is kind of where my mind led me to lean towards the under. I think his production takes a step forward, right? No Mace Funa. You don't have Dorless taking sacks away. The other thing, too, I'm excited to see what this coaching staff does with the pass rushing packages for this defense, because when you have, a 3rd and 9 situation, do you have Jordan Birch as the only guy on the interior with his hand in the ground, or stand up everybody and put all 3 of those edge guys on the field alongside him, or do you put an extra linebacker out there? I think there are a lot of fun, creative ways that they can handle the defensive line there. Did you have any final thoughts on that?
I do like that exercise of trying to think what the pass rush situation would be like on a 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, and just who the guys are out there. There's a lot of options, just like there was last year. I think that's going to be fun to see when that happens for the first time.
Yeah, I remember in the Colorado game, Purchase and Tuioti beat the Colorado tackles and converged on Shedeur Sanders for a sack, and I just kind of watched it going, well, first of all, love seeing sacks, because in 2022, that wasn't a thing that Oregon really had.
No, it was not.
But secondly, those 2 guys making that play, I was like, are we going to be watching those 2 do it for the next 3 seasons, including that one and maybe their senior years if they play like that? That group, I think, is really, really talented. Next prediction here. This is, again, a tricky one. Jordan James runs for 1,000 yards.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think he was 700 plus yards last year and was like 7 yards a carry. And obviously that was against Pac-12 defenses who weren't that great and you could run a lot on. You look at games like Arizona State, you look at games like Colorado, like that was kind of some blood shedding. And I don't think that there's as many teams on the schedule this year that you're going to be able to get those huge chunk plays. But I think Jordan James is more than capable. Last 2 years under Dan Lanning and his offensive coordinators, they've just had a 2 or 3 running back set. And really it's 3. And Jordan James has been that third guy until Noah Whittington got hurt. And it's just like, James's freshman year, he was just a third down dude. Third down goal line situation, like big kind of bruiser back. I think that he's more than capable of being the true number 1 and running for over 1,000 yards. I think there's part of me that thinks that he's just naturally better than Bucky Irving. I don't want to say that because I think Bucky Irving was really, really, really good. And
they're different. I think it's fair to say that they are different types of runner. 100%. I don't think anyone runs like Bucky. Like I compared him somewhat to LaMichael with his lateral movement, but even stylistically, they were not the same.
No, and everybody's kind of different in that room, especially this year. But there's something about the way Jordan runs that reminds me more of like just a better running back. I don't know what it is, but I think that he's more than capable of running over 1,000 yards. I think if Bucky was able to do it, especially last year where he's kind of hurt down the stretch of the season, I think that Jordan can do it. The only problem is just like, will Oregon's offensive line, especially the interior that we kind of mentioned with JPJ being gone, will they be as good against bigger Big Ten lines? And that's just a question that's going to be answered next season. Like I can't say that they will because I don't know. They might be as good as they were last year as an offensive line unit, or they might kind of stink. I don't know. This is why you play the game. So I think he'll do it just because I have confidence in that group and I think they're talented, but you just have to play the games. I don't think it'll be as easy as it was last year. So if it is 1,000 yards, it's going to be a very hard-earned 1,000 yards.
I agree that it'll be very hard-earned in the Big Ten, and also, again, from just a touches and snaps standpoint, because Noah Whittington is no slouch. I know Oregon fans might have forgotten because he got hurt last year and missed a big chunk of the season, but that guy's really good. The other day I was watching again the Colorado highlights on YouTube because that was just kind of a fun day, and that's what I do in my free time when I'm not golfing, of course. And Noah Whittington in that game looks awesome. Or in the Texas Tech, he looks fantastic, and that's because he's a really, really good back. And I think those guys form an outstanding tandem. And I kind of thought coming in spring that Whittington might be closer to the number 1 guy than most people thought. And then I watched Jordan James in the spring game, and his first touch went for 35 yards, and he was just kind of sifting his way through the defense, and his acceleration and vision was just really, really good with his balance. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's probably your number 1 back. Last guy before we get to baseball a little bit later, Jared, Jurrion Dickey. I don't have a specific prediction here, but I like you probably over on Autzen Audibles have gotten several questions or inquiries about like what is Dickey's role going to be. He's, I believe, other than Cameron Colvin, the highest rated Oregon receiver commit of all time. Yep. He is immensely talented, battled injuries last year that he suffered coming out of high school, so he never really got acclimated, but this receiver room is, in the eyes of some, the best in all of college football. I mean, does he crack 200 receiving yards this year?
It's going to be tough.
That's what I think too.
And, given Junior Adams' track record the last 2 seasons where he's really only played like 4 or 5 wide receivers, he's talked about it. He's like, no, we have more talent this year. Like, we're going to get guys out onto the field. Like, I'll believe it when I see it type of deal. So, and if he doesn't, expand his wide receiver room from 4 or 5 guys to 7 or 8 dudes, then Jurrion's maybe not going to see the field that often. I think that Jurrion has as much like God-given talent as a lot of people in that receiving room. And he's just, like you said, he was hurt last year. So people were kind of like, oh, where is he? Why isn't he doing anything? It's like, well, he's rehabbing from an injury he suffered in high school. And then you see him or hear about him during the Fiesta Bowl. I asked everybody on the team that I could, like, who's a guy who with an opening ahead of him, like who's a guy who could kind of show up and get the people talking and do well in this game. And everybody basically said Jurrion Dickey, and a lot of hype, a lot of flash, a lot of substance there. Didn't do a lot of the spring game. I think he kind of got banged up there. So it's really tough for me to say what he'll do because I just haven't seen it. Everybody has talked very highly of the kid. He's a good guy. He works hard. He's in the room studying the film. He's trying to learn routes, all that stuff. And then he's just a naturally God-given athlete at that position. But I don't know what he's going to do this year. And with the guys in front of him, maybe he does nothing. Or maybe he's better than those guys. Maybe his 5-star status as a recruit was justified. And he comes in here and he gets healthy and he learns the playbook and is suddenly, Oregon's number 3 or number 4 behind Gary Bryant or Trayshawn Holden. Like, take your pick there. I just don't know. I would hope that he goes over 200 yards. But, if Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson are cooking, I'm not sure who else is getting the football.
Yeah, I mean, last year Oregon had 2,000-yard receivers, and guys after that, Trayshawn Holden didn't even hit 500. I don't think. I think he was like 470 or so, and Gary Bryant Jr. was in the 300-400-yard range. And I think of those 4, Gary Bryant would be the guy whose role is the most up for grabs. But that doesn't mean that I feel like it's completely open and that he's got a battle to keep his number 4 receiver spot. I think the best way. Think about this. This episode is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number 1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.